Alan Miller wiped the sweat from his forehead as he finished repairing the old hover car. The afternoon sun beat down through the holes in the workshop roof. 6 years after the first contact war, Earth was still in ruins. Cities like New Austin were shadows of what they once were. Alan had not planned to survive the war. As a combat medic, he had seen too much death. When his wife, Lisa, died in the alien bombing of Houston Medical Center, something inside him had broken. But here he was, still fixing things that other people broke. That should do it, he said to no one. His workshop was empty except for the machines. Most of his customers dropped off their vehicles and came back when they were fixed. Nobody stayed to chat with the quiet widower. Alan washed his hands in the sink. The water came out brown at first, then cleared. At least they had running water this week. He looked at his reflection in the cracked mirror above the sink. Gray hairs had taken over his dark brown hair. The lines around his eyes had deepened. At 42, he looked 10 years older. On his walk home, Alan passed the usual scenes: children playing in rubble, people lining up for food rations, alien enforcers watching from their hover platforms. The aliens, the Zendari, had won the war, but they didn't want Earth. They just wanted to make sure humans never threatened them again. They limited human technology, monitored communications, and controlled who could leave for the colonies. On Mars and Europa, Alan stopped at Mrs. Henderson's vegetable stand. The elderly woman had converted her tiny yard into a garden after losing her family in the war. "Evening, Alan. The usual?" she asked, already putting together a small bundle of carrots and tomatoes. "Thanks, Betty. How's business?" Mrs. Henderson shrugged. "Same as always. Did you hear about the Palmer family? Their youngest son got picked for a colony visa." Alan nodded. Colony visas were rare. The aliens allowed some humans to leave Earth for the colonies, but most had to stay behind. The colonies were thriving while Earth suffered. "Good for them," he said, though they both knew the boy would probably never see his family again. Alan handed over his credits for the vegetables. He noticed a man handing out papers to people passing by. Curious, he took one. "What's this?" Alan asked. The man glanced around nervously. "Opportunity. If you're interested, show up at the address. Tonight only." Then he hurried away. Alan looked at the paper. It showed an address in the old warehouse. District a time and the words Family Resources Auction. He almost threw it away, but something made him fold it and put it in his pocket. Back at his small apartment, Alan made a simple dinner with Mrs. Henderson's vegetables. As he ate alone at his table, he unfolded the paper and read it again. He had heard rumors about these auctions. Desperate families selling family members, usually young women and men, to colonists or aliens looking for workers, companions, or worse. The practice disgusted him, but he couldn't judge the families too harshly. Life on Earth had become nearly impossible for many. Some saw selling a family member as their only chance for survival. Alan was about to throw the paper away when he overheard his neighbors talking through the thin walls. "The Reeves girl is being sold tonight," a woman's voice said. "Her stepfather owes money to those alien loan sharks. They'll kill him if he doesn't pay." "Poor Sam," another voice replied. "She was studying engineering before all this, smart girl. Now she'll end up as some alien's pet or worse." Alan froze. Sam Reeves. He had fixed her mother's car a few times before she died last year. Sam had sometimes come with her, watching. Alan worked with curious eyes, asking intelligent questions about the engines. After her mother died, Alan had heard she was living with her stepfather, a man with a bad gambling habit. He looked at the paper again, then at the small box on his bedside table. Inside was Lisa's wedding ring. He had kept it after her death, unable to part with it. It was the most valuable thing he owned. An hour later, Alan found himself walking toward the warehouse district. He told himself he was just going to look, to confirm if what he had heard was true. But deep down he knew he was lying to himself. The auction was held in an old shipping warehouse. Men with guns checked everyone at the door. Alan handed over his ID chip for scanning, trying to look casual. Inside, about 50 people sat in rows facing a small stage. Most were well-dressed colonists visiting Earth on business. A few aliens sat in the back. their translators glowing softly in the dim light. A man in a suit walked onto the stage. "Welcome, friends, to our family resources auction. These young people come from good families who have fallen on hard times. Your purchase not only secures you valuable help, but provides their families with much-needed support." Alan felt sick as the first person was brought out, a young man about 20 years old. The bidding started. A colonist mining executive won him for work on Mars. 3 more young people were sold before Sam was brought onto the stage. Alan recognized her immediately. Her dark hair was pulled back, and her brown eyes looked at the floor. But there was defiance in how she held herself, shoulders straight, jaw tight. Next, we have Samantha, 19 years old, in excellent health. Basic education with some engineering knowledge. Starting bid is 5,000 credits. A colonist raised his hand, then another. The price climbed slowly. Alan watched, heart pounding. Then a Zendari in the back raised a tentacle. The alien's translator glowed. 12,000 credits. The colonist went quiet. Everyone knew what happened to humans purchased by this particular alien. He ran pleasure houses for other aliens in the outer colonies. No human returned from those places. 12,000 from our friend in the back, the auctioneer said. Going once? Alan stood up. 15,000 credits, he said, his voice sounding strange, to his own ears. And this. He held up Lisa's ring. Platinum with a real diamond, worth at least 8,000 more. The warehouse went quiet. Sam looked up, finally seeing who was bidding. Her eyes widened slightly when she recognized Alan. The auctioneer looked at the alien, who lowered his tentacle. Even the alien knew better than to outbid a human so dramatically. For another human, it would attract too much attention. Sold, the auctioneer announced. Please proceed to processing. Alan walked to a table at the side of the warehouse. A man sat there with papers. Behind him stood Sam's stepfather, a thin man with nervous eyes. ID and payment, the man at the table said. Alan handed over his ID chip and the credits. He placed Lisa's ring on the table. Sam's stepfather grabbed it quickly, examining it. Ownership transfer complete, the man said, stamping a document. She's yours now. Sam was brought over by a guard. She stood silently, eyes still on the floor. Let's go, Alan said quietly. He didn't touch her, just walked toward the door. After a moment, Sam followed. Outside, the night air felt cleaner somehow. They walked 2 blocks in silence before Sam finally spoke. Why? She asked. Just one word, but filled with suspicion. Alan stopped walking. I knew your mother. You used to come to my shop sometimes. I remember, she said. But that doesn't answer my question. Alan looked up at the stars, barely visible through the pollution. I couldn't save my wife. I couldn't save most of my patients during the war. But I thought maybe I could save one person tonight. Sam studied his face, looking for the lie, for the hidden agenda. What do you want from me? Nothing, Alan said. You can stay at my place until you figure out what to do. There's a spare room. Lock on the door. Sam didn't reply, but when Alan started walking again, she followed. The walk to Alan's apartment was quiet. Sam stayed a few steps behind him, watching his every move. The streets were dark except for the occasional glow of alien patrol lights sweeping through the area. Most people were already inside, obeying the curfew that the Zendari enforced. It's not much, Alan said as he unlocked his apartment door. But it's clean and safe. Sam stepped inside cautiously. The apartment was small, but neat. A combined kitchen and living area with 2 doors, leading to what she guessed were bedrooms. Bathroom is through there, Alan pointed. My room is on the left, yours is on the right. There's a lock on the door. Sam walked to the right-hand door and looked inside. The room was simple. A bed, a dresser, and a small desk with a chair. The window had real curtains, not the sheets or newspaper that covered most windows in this part of town. This was, Sam began, guessing this had been his wife's room or office. Just a spare room, Alan said quickly. I keep it ready in case someone needs it. Sam doubted that was true, but she didn't say anything. She turned to face him, crossing her arms. So what happens now? What do you expect from me? Alan looked tired. The adrenaline from the auction had worn off, and the reality of what he had done was sinking in. Nothing happens. You can stay here as long as you need to. There's food in the kitchen. I get up at 6 for work. You can come with me to the shop if you want, or stay here. And you want nothing in return? Sam's voice was hard with disbelief. I want you to be safe, Alan said simply. That's all. Sam looked at him carefully. In her experience, no one did something for nothing, especially not men, especially not in this world. But she was tired, and this was better than where she might have ended up tonight. I'll figure out how to pay you back, she said finally. Alan shook his head but didn't argue. There are some clothes in the dresser. They might be too big, but they're clean. Towels in the bathroom. Help yourself to anything in the kitchen. He turned to leave, then stopped. Sam, I know you have no reason to trust me, but I promise you're safe here. Lock your door tonight if it makes you feel better. After he left, Sam did exactly that. She leaned against the door and finally let the tears come. She had spent weeks preparing herself for this night, for being sold like property. She had imagined many outcomes, most of them horrible. But she hadn't imagined this, being purchased by a man who seemingly wanted nothing from her. Eventually, Sam wiped her face and explored the room. The clothes in the dresser were simple: t-shirts, sweatpants, socks, all clean and folded neatly. She found a brush and a small mirror in the top drawer. In the desk drawer, there was paper and pencils. Small luxuries in this world. She took a quick shower, changed into the 2 large clothes, and lay down on the bed. Despite her exhaustion, sleep was a long time coming. Morning arrived with the smell of coffee. Sam opened her door cautiously. Alan was in the kitchen pouring coffee into 2 mugs. He was already dressed for work, faded coveralls with his name patch on the chest. Morning, he said, not looking surprised that she was still there. Coffee? Sam nodded and took the offered mug. She sat at the small table, watching him make oatmeal on the ancient stove. You have electricity every day? She asked. In her stepfather's house, power had been intermittent at best. Generator at the shop, Alan explained. I bring the batteries home to charge things here. Perks of being a mechanic. He placed a bowl of oatmeal in front of her, then sat down with his own. They ate, in silence for a while. So you fix things? Sam finally asked. Anything with an engine or circuit board. Alan nodded. Mostly human tech, but sometimes alien stuff that finds its way to me. Sam's interest was genuine now. You can fix Zendari tech? Isn't that illegal? Alan gave her a small smile. Most things worth doing are illegal these days. After breakfast, Sam decided to go with Alan to his shop. She didn't want to stay alone in a strange apartment, and she was curious about his work. The walk was different in daylight. Sam saw details she had missed the night before: the small gardens in unlikely places, the murals painted on broken walls, the signs of humans adapting to their new reality. Alan's shop was in an old gas station. The pumps were long gone, replaced by workbenches and tools. Inside, vehicles in various states of repair filled the space. A hover car with its propulsion unit exposed, an old gasoline truck being converted to new fuel cells, and in the corner, partially covered by a tarp, what looked like a piece of an alien drone. You really do work on their tech, Sam said, moving toward the alien device. Sometimes. When people bring it to me. Mostly salvage from crashes or abandoned outposts. Alan watched her examine the device. You know something about this stuff? Sam shrugged. I was studying engineering before. She trailed off. Before her mother died. Before her stepfather pulled her out of school. Before everything fell apart. Before life got complicated. Alan finished for her. He handed her a pair of work gloves. Want to learn more? For the first time since her mother's death, Sam felt a spark of hope. Yes. They worked side by side for hours. Alan showed her how to identify alien circuitry, how it differed from human designs. Sam was a quick learner, her hands steady as she helped him repair a customer's hovercar. At midday, a woman arrived at the shop. She looked at Sam with open curiosity. "Alan Miller, you didn't tell me you had help today," the woman said. "Mrs. Henderson, this is Sam," Alan said. "Sam, this is Betty Henderson, my neighbor and the best gardener in New Austin." "Nice to meet you, dear," Mrs. Henderson said, still looking between them with questions in her eyes. "Sam is staying with me for a while," Alan explained vaguely. "She's good with machines." Mrs. Henderson seemed to accept this. She handed Alan a basket covered with a cloth. "Brought you some lunch. Enough for two, as it happens. You're a lifesaver, Betty," Alan said gratefully. After Mrs. Henderson left, they ate the lunch she had brought. Bread, cheese, and fresh vegetables. Luxuries in this world. "She seems nice," Sam said. "She lost her husband and 2 sons in the war," Alan told her. "Turned her yard into a garden afterward. Says growing things helps her believe in the future." They returned to work after lunch. By the end of the day, Sam's hands were dirty and sore, but she felt more alive than she had in months. She had fixed things today. Made broken things work, again. As they walked home in the evening light, Sam finally asked the question that had been bothering her all day. "Why did you really buy me last night?" Alan was quiet for so long that Sam thought he wouldn't answer. Finally, he spoke. "During the war, I was a medic. I saw so many people die that I couldn't save. After Lisa, my wife, died, I didn't see much point in anything. But then I realized that maybe I couldn't save everyone, but I could still help. The people in front of me." He looked at her. "You were the person in front of me last night." Sam didn't know what to say to that, but as they reached the apartment, she realized she hadn't looked over her shoulder once all day, hadn't been waiting for the next bad thing to happen. For the first time in a long time, she had just lived in the moment. It wasn't freedom, not really, but it was a start. A month passed. Sam fell into a routine at Alan's shop. She woke early, had breakfast with him, and worked alongside him all day. In the evenings, they would walk home together, sometimes stopping at Mrs. Henderson's garden to buy vegetables, or just to talk. Mrs. Henderson had been suspicious at first. One evening, when Alan was busy with a customer, she had cornered Sam behind the shop. "Are you okay, dear?" she had asked, her old eyes sharp with concern. "You can tell me the truth. If he's forcing you to stay with him—" "He's not," Sam had said quickly. He saved me." The old woman had studied her face for a long moment. "Well, that sounds like the Alan I know." After that, Mrs. Henderson became Sam's friend too, teaching her about growing plants in the small pots Sam had started to keep on the apartment windowsill. Sam was working on a hover bike when she heard the bell over the shop door ring. She looked up to see a tall man in a colony uniform, Earthborn who had made it to Mars or Europa, judging by his healthy appearance and clean clothes. "Can I help you?" she asked, wiping her hands on a rag. The man looked surprised to see her. "I'm looking for Alan Miller. He's out back testing a repair." Sam gestured toward the rear door. "You can wait here if you want." The man nodded but didn't sit down. He looked around the shop with interest, his eyes lingering on the half-disassembled Zendari drone in the corner. "You work on alien tech here?" he asked casually. Sam's guard went up instantly. Working on alien technology without a permit was punishable by deportation to work camps. "Just human vehicles," she said, moving to stand between the man and the drone. The man smiled slightly. "Relax, I'm not an informer. I'm an old friend of Alan's, Joe Carpenter. We served together during the war." Before Sam could respond, Alan came in from the back. He stopped when he saw the visitor, then broke into a rare smile. "Joe," he said, coming forward to clasp the man's hand. "What are you doing back on this rock?" "Supply run," Joe said. "Couldn't come to New Austin without seeing you." He nodded towards Sam. "I see you've got help these days." Alan's smile faded slightly. "Sam, this is Joe Carpenter, Army medic, best field surgeon I ever knew. Now he runs a clinic on Europa." "Good to meet you," Sam said, still cautious. "Likewise," Joe replied. Any friend of Alan's is a friend of mine. Alan looked between them. Joe, could you give us a minute? When Joe stepped outside, Alan turned to Sam. He's one of the good ones. Trustworthy. Sam nodded. He saw the drone. It's okay. Joe's connected to people who can use that kind of tech. Alan hesitated. He might be able to help you too. Help me how? Get you papers. Maybe even a colony visa someday. Sam stared at him. A colony visa was a dream for earthbound humans. A chance to live somewhere with clean air, regular food, and without constant alien oversight. Why would he help me? She asked. Because I'd ask him to, Alan said simply. Think about it. No rush. I'll be at Hank's bar with Joe tonight if you want to join us, 7 o'clock. Sam spent the rest of the day distracted. A colony visa would mean freedom, real freedom, not just the relative safety she had with Alan, but it would also mean leaving Earth, leaving Alan. That thought surprised her. When had she started thinking of staying with Alan as something she wanted, rather than just her best option? At 6:30, Sam found herself walking toward Hank's bar. It was one of the few gathering places still open in New Austin, mostly because Hank paid hefty bribes to the alien administrators. The bar was dimly lit and smelled of the harsh alcohol that passed for whiskey these days. Sam spotted Alan and Joe in a corner booth. She slid in next to Alan. You came, Alan said, looking pleased. I was curious, Sam admitted. Joe signaled the bartender for another glass. Alan was just telling me how you two met. Sam tensed, but Alan's version was simple. Sam needed somewhere to go. I had space. Joe poured her a drink from the bottle, on the table. Alan always did have a habit of picking up strays. He once carried a wounded dog 15 miles through a war zone. Lisa was so mad, Alan said with a small smile at the memory of his wife. But she helped me nurse that dog back to health. Sam realized this was the first time she had heard Alan speak of his wife without pain in his voice. Just fondness for the memory. Alan says you're good with tech, Joe said to Sam. Sam shrugged. I like fixing things. She's being modest, Alan said. She figured out how to repair the guidance system on that Zendari drone when I was ready to scrap it. Joe looked impressed. That kind of skill is valuable on the colonies. We're always looking for people who can adapt human tech to work with alien systems. Is that why you're really here? Sam asked. Recruiting? Joe smiled. Smart too. Yes, part of my job on these supply runs is to find people with useful skills, people who deserve a chance off this planet. And how do you determine who deserves it? I trust Alan's judgment, Joe said simply. If he says you're good people, that's enough for me. The conversation shifted to news from the colonies. Joe told them about new settlements on Europa, the hydroponics farms, the hospitals. It sounded like a different world. As they walked home later, Sam was quiet. Alan didn't push her to talk, just walked beside her through the darkened streets. If I got a visa, she finally said, would you come too? Alan looked surprised. They don't give visas to old medics with bad knees. Joe could help. You said he's connected. Alan shook his head. My place is here, Sam. There are people who need me in New Austin. Sam felt a strange disappointment. So you want me to go without you? I want you to have choices, Alan said. Real ones, not just choosing the least bad option. Back at the apartment, Sam couldn't sleep. She went to the small kitchen to make tea and found Alan there doing the same thing. Couldn't sleep either? He asked, getting a second cup. Sam sat at the table. I've been thinking about what Joe said, about the colonies. Alan set a cup of tea in front of her. And? I don't think I want to go, she said. The words surprised her as she said them. Not yet, anyway. There's still things I want to learn here. With you. Alan looked at her for a long moment. You don't have to decide now. Joe will be on Earth for 2 more weeks. I know. She sipped her tea. But I think I've already decided. For the first time since coming to live with Alan, Sam felt like she had made a real choice. Not just accepting the best bad option, but choosing something she actually wanted. It felt like the first step toward a kind of freedom she hadn't expected to find. "Thank you," she said suddenly. "For what?" "For giving me the choice. For not deciding for me." Alan nodded, understanding in his eyes. They finished their tea in comfortable silence. Two people who had found something neither expected, a kind of family in the ruins of their world. 3 months had passed since the auction. Sam had grown more confident in her abilities at the shop. Alan had taught her everything he knew about engines and circuits, and she had started to experiment with combining human and alien technology in ways even he hadn't thought of. One morning, Alan came into the workshop to find Sam already there, hunched over the workbench. She had connected parts of the alien drone to a human radio system. "What are you working on?" Alan asked, setting down the breakfast sandwiches Mrs. Henderson had made for them. Sam looked up, her eyes bright with excitement. "I think I found a way to use the alien power source to boost our comm range. If it works, we could talk to people 50 miles away without the Zendari listening in." Alan whistled softly. "That would be worth a lot to the right people." "I know." Sam stretched her back. "I was thinking about what Joe said before he left, about resistance groups on Europa developing new tech. Maybe we could help from here." Alan smiled. Over the past month, Sam had gone from saying you to we when talking about the shop, the work, the future. It felt good to be part of a we again. The bell over the shop door rang. Alan turned, expecting a customer, but instead saw a face he had hoped never to see again. Sam's stepfather, Frank Reeves, stood in the doorway. Behind him were 2 Zendari enforcers, their tentacles waving slightly. Sam froze, her hand automatically covering the alien tech on the workbench. "Well, well," Frank said, his thin lips curling into a smile. "Isn't this cozy?" Alan moved to stand between Sam and the visitors. "What do you want, Frank?" "Just checking on my stepdaughter," Frank said too loudly. "Making sure she's being treated well." One of the Zendari moved forward, its translator glowing. "Human Frank Reeves has reported illegal possession of alien technology," the mechanical voice said. "We are authorized to search these premises." Sam's face went pale. Alan kept his expression neutral. "There must be some mistake. We only work on human vehicles here." "Then you won't mind if we look around," Frank said, grinning now. He pointed at Sam. "She knows where it is. Don't you, Sam?" The second Zendari moved toward the workbench where Sam stood. Sam glanced at Alan, panic in her eyes. "It's okay," Alan said quietly. "Step aside." Sam hesitated, then moved away from the bench. The alien reached for her project with a tentacle. "Wait," Frank said suddenly. "What if I told you there's more? Much more. Military-grade stuff." He turned to Alan. "I bet you'd pay good money to keep that quiet, wouldn't you?" Now Alan understood. This wasn't about alien tech. This was extortion. Frank had probably heard from someone that Sam was living with him working in his shop. He had brought the aliens to scare them, but his real goal was money. "We don't have anything to hide," Alan said firmly. "No?" Frank's eyes narrowed. "What about the fact that you're harboring my property? I only rented her to you for 3 months. That time's up today." Sam made a small sound of distress. Alan felt cold anger growing inside him. "She's not property, and she's not going anywhere with you." Frank smirked. "The sale contract says different. Show them," he ordered the Zendari. The alien produced a document on its translator screen. It was the paper Alan had signed at the auction. There, in small print at the bottom, were the words, "Temporary transfer of ownership, valid for 3 standard months." Alan had never read the fine print. He had been too focused on getting Sam out of there. "This can all go away," Frank said smoothly. "For the right price." Before Alan could respond, Sam stepped forward. "I have something better than money," she said. Her voice was steady despite her pale face. All eyes turned to her. Sam reached under the workbench and pulled out a small device Alan had never seen before. "What is that?" Frank asked, suddenly wary. "Something I've been working on," Sam said. She pressed a button. A soft hum filled the room and the Zendari's translators flickered, then went dark. "It disrupts their communication systems. They can't call for backup now." The aliens made angry clicking sounds, waving their tentacles in distress. Frank's smug expression vanished. "Turn that off, they'll kill us all." "Not if we make a new deal," Sam said coldly. "I have the only working prototype of this device. It can disable any Zendari tech within 20 feet. Alan stared at her in amazement. She had built this in secret, right under his nose. "The Resistance would pay a fortune for something like that," Sam continued. "Or the Zendari would pay even more to make sure it never gets out." She looked at her stepfather. "So here's the deal. You tear up that contract and never come near us again, or I'll turn this device over to the highest bidder and make sure everyone knows you were involved." Frank looked at the distressed aliens, then back at Sam. For the first time, Alan saw fear in the man's eyes. "You're bluffing," Frank said, but his voice wavered. Sam turned a dial on the device. The hum grew louder, and one of the aliens collapsed to the floor, its breathing apparatus failing. "I'm not the scared girl you sold 3 months ago," Sam said. Frank pulled the contract from his pocket and tore it in half. "Fine, keep her. She's more trouble than she's worth anyway." Sam turned the dial back and the fallen alien slowly recovered. She picked up a pen and paper from the counter. "Write that you relinquish all claims to me, now and forever. Sign it." Frank scribbled on the paper and shoved it at her. "We're done here." "Help your friends out," Sam told him, nodding at the aliens. "And if I ever see you again, I'll make sure every Zendari enforcer in the sector knows you were part of developing an anti-alien weapon." Frank turned pale. He helped the wobbly aliens out of the shop, glancing back once with hatred in his eyes. When they were gone, Sam collapsed onto a stool, her hands shaking as she turned off the device. "Are you okay?" Alan asked, moving to her side. Sam nodded. "I wasn't sure it would work. I've been testing it on small alien tech pieces, but never on something as complex as their translators or breathing systems." "How long have you been working on this?" "Since the first week I was here," Sam admitted. "At night when you were asleep. I knew he might come back someday. I wanted to be ready." Alan looked at the device in her hand. "You know what you've got there, right? This could change everything. If the Resistance had this—" "I know," Sam said. She looked up at him, her eyes uncertain for the first time since the confrontation began. "Are you angry I kept it from you?" Alan shook his head. "No, I'm proud of you." He touched her shoulder gently, but Frank wasn't bluffing about one thing. "This makes us targets now. If the Zendari figure out what happened here today, they'll come looking for this technology." "What do we do?" Alan thought for a moment. "We need to contact Joe. If anyone can help us get this to the right people, it's him." Sam looked at the torn contract in her hand, then at the device she had created. For the first time in her life, she held real power. Not just the power to defend herself, but maybe to help defend others too. "Thank you," she said suddenly. "For what?" "For buying me that night. For giving me a safe place to become this." She gestured to herself, the shop, the device. "Someone who can fight back." Alan smiled. "You did that part yourself." They looked at each other, no longer just a rescuer and a rescued girl, but partners in something bigger than themselves, something that might just change the world. 2 days after Frank's visit, Alan woke to urgent knocking at the door. He opened it to find Mrs. Henderson, her face tight with worry. "Alien patrols are searching all the workshops in the area," she said without greeting. "Someone reported illegal tech development." Alan thanked her and quickly closed the door. Sam was already up, grabbing her backpack. "We need to leave," she said, stuffing clothes inside. "Frank must have told them anyway." Alan nodded. He had prepared for this possibility. From under his bed, he pulled out a bag with emergency supplies and credits. From a hidden panel in the wall, he took out a small box. What's that? Sam asked. Insurance, Alan said, opening the box to reveal identity chips. Joe left these before. He went back to Europa. Said we might need them someday. Sam took one of the chips, examining it. These look real. They are real. Registered to a Nathan and Karen West. Merchants from the Western Territory. Alan smiled grimly. Joe has friends in interesting places. They left through the back window, avoiding the main streets. They could see alien patrol ships hovering over the workshop district. Alan led Sam through a series of alleyways until they reached the edge of town where an old truck was hidden under a tarp. You planned for this, Sam said as Alan uncovered the vehicle. I've been planning escape routes since the war ended, Alan admitted. Never thought I'd have a reason to use them until now. They drove west, away from New Austin, using back roads to avoid checkpoints. Sam kept her device close, ready to activate it if they encountered patrols. The truck ran nearly silent, modified by Alan years ago to avoid detection. Where are we going? Sam finally asked as the sun began to set. Old military bunker about 100 miles west. It was abandoned after the war, but some of my old unit kept it stocked as a safe house. Sam looked at him with new respect. You were part of the resistance all along? Alan shrugged. Not actively. I was waiting, I guess, for something worth fighting for. They drove in silence for a while. The landscape changed from broken city to wasteland to scrubby hills. As night fell, Alan turned off the main road onto a nearly invisible track that wound up into the hills. The bunker was hidden between two rock formations, its entrance covered with local vegetation. Inside it was dusty but intact. Supplies lined the walls: food, water, medical equipment, and communications gear. Will your friends be here? Sam asked as they settled in. Alan shook his head. Most of them are off-world now. Like Joe, they rotate through here every few months to check on things. Sam set up her device on a table and began to modify it. Alan watched as she worked, her hands moving with confidence over the alien and human components. What are you doing? He asked. Expanding the range, Sam explained. If we can boost the signal to cover the whole bunker, it will mask our presence from any scanning technology. By morning, she had succeeded. A gentle hum filled the bunker, creating an invisible shield against detection. They spent the day organizing supplies and planning their next move. Joe left a communicator that should reach Europa, Alan said, pulling out an old military radio he had modified. But it will take a few days for the message to get through and for him to arrange transport. Sam nodded. We can wait. We're safe here. 5 days passed. They fell into a routine, Sam working on improving her device, Alan maintaining their equipment and monitoring for any signs of pursuit. In the evenings, they talked. Sam told Alan about her life before her mother died, her dreams of becoming an engineer. Alan shared stories of Lisa, of his time as a medic, of the hope he had once had for rebuilding after the war. On the 6th night, the communicator crackled to life. Joe's voice came through, broken and static-filled, but clear enough to understand. Alan, Sam, do you copy? Alan grabbed the handset. We're here, Joe. Thank God, listen carefully. I can get you transport off-world, but you need to get to the old spaceport at New Dallas 2 days from now. Can you make it? Alan looked at Sam, who nodded. We'll be there. Good. And Alan, the device Sam created. Bring it. The people here need to see it. The connection cut off. Alan and Sam looked at each other. New Dallas is 300 miles away, Sam said. We'll have to leave now to make it in time. They packed quickly, loading the truck with only what they needed. As Sam was gathering her tools, Alan handed her a small box. What's this? She asked. Something I've been saving, Alan said. Open it. Inside was Lisa's wedding ring, the one Alan had used to buy Sam at the auction. Your wife's ring? But my stepfather took this. Alan smiled. That was a replica. I couldn't bear to give up the real one. He closed Sam's fingers around the ring. I want you to have it. Not because I'm trying to replace Lisa, but because you've become family to me. The only family I have left. Sam's eyes filled with tears. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Alan told her. Just promise me you'll use that brilliant mind of yours to help rebuild, not just destroy. That's what Lisa would have wanted. It's what I want too, I promise, Sam said, putting the ring on a chain around her neck. The journey to New Dallas was tense. They avoided main roads, traveling at night when possible. Twice they had to use Sam's device to disable alien patrols. By the time they reached the outskirts of New Dallas, they were exhausted but determined. The old spaceport was in ruins, abandoned since the early days of the occupation. As they approached, they saw no signs of life. Are we too early? Sam asked, checking the time. No, Alan said, pointing to a shadow moving near a collapsed hangar. There. They parked the truck and approached cautiously. A figure stepped out from behind the ruins. Joe, dressed in colony work clothes. You made it, he said, embracing each of them. The shuttle is hidden in the old underground bay. We have 20 minutes before the Zendari satellites pass over. As they hurried through the ruins, Joe explained the plan. We're taking you to the Europa Science Station. There's a team there already working on countermeasures against Zendari technology. Sam, your device could be the breakthrough they need. Sam clutched her backpack, which contained the device and her notes. I hope so. They reached a hidden elevator that took them down to a massive underground bay. There sat a small shuttle, its engines already warming up. A woman was in the pilot's seat running pre-flight checks. This is Diane, Joe said. Best pilot in the Resistance. As Sam climbed aboard, Alan hesitated at the entrance. Joe noticed. What's wrong? He asked. Alan looked back toward the elevator. I can't go. Sam turned, alarmed. What do you mean? Alan took her hands. There are still people back in New Austin who need help. Mrs. Henderson, the others, I can't leave them. But the Zendari are looking for you too, Sam protested. I know, but I've been hiding from them for years. I'll be okay. He squeezed her hands. You need to go. Your work is too important. Sam looked torn. Come with us, please. Alan shook his head. Someone needs to stay behind to keep the resistance going here, to help others like I helped you. In that moment, Sam realized Alan had made his choice just as she had made hers. She hugged him fiercely. I'll come back, she promised. When we have a way to drive them off Earth for good. I know you will, Alan said. He stepped back from the shuttle. Now go, before the satellites spot us. Sam boarded the shuttle, watching through the window as Alan retreated to the elevator. As the shuttle powered up, she touched the ring around her neck. Not property, not anymore, but family, by choice rather than by blood. The shuttle rose through the open bay doors into the night sky. Sam watched the earth fall away beneath them. Somewhere down there, Alan was already planning his next rescue, helping the next person who needed him, and she was flying toward a future where she could help them all.